Hi, welcome back. Day 5 implementation pack. Finalising the emergency management processes we've got within day 5. So we've talked about the emergency management procedures, evacuation, hazardous substances, and some fire safety. As usual, the implementation pack provides you some more of the tools so you can actually implement some of these processes, the documents to fill out when you're using this information. We keep harping on about it, but WHS compliance is all about having that paper trail, making sure that you've got everything covered, your staff are aware, your staff are talking, your risk management approaches are in place to make sure that the workplace is deemed safe and everyone is working to their best ability to make sure that they maintain a safe workplace. Your day 5 implementation pack, we've got two main areas. The first one is to do with hazardous materials. As we have stated, they could be involved in risk management, and they fairly much are, but we've included them in emergency management just to make sure that we're covering all our bases. The three documents you have to do with hazardous substances today first one's a checklist. So it's basically, you would use this when you get a new substance in, or if you undertake an audit of what you've currently got there. So effectively what it's doing is just to highlight what the substance is, what it's used for. Do you have the MSDS in place? If not, go back to the manufacturer. They normally, I think they're required by law, most of them, to provide them these days. That's within Australia though. So obviously if you get your substances from elsewhere, they may not necessarily have them. Do a Google search, quite often you'll find them online, but basically make sure you've got them there. We will provide another video for you outlining an MSDS and what's actually involved in it, so that will be as part of this pack as well. You also have the hazardous nature, so are they corrosive, are they an irritant, so if they touch your skin, will they make you itchy, will they burn your skin, are they corrosive to other materials, so if you're using factory materials, will they cause them to corrode, which causes other risks to due to malfunctioning equipment, etc. Effectively, you're then looking at how you can minimise that risk. So is it a concentration? So can you water it down? Is it still as effective? Can you increase your ventilation? Should you use it outside? How are you storing it? What happens if you spill it? What happens with wastage or used substances like oils, etc. once you've used them? Remember, we talked about the environmental impacts, I think in day 4 under risk management, we talked about environment. So how is your environmental impacts? Are there any other harmful effects, etc. So it's just basically a checklist as you get your hazardous substances in to make sure that you be able to account for them as you go through. The second document you've got there, once you've done that, is you've got your hazardous substances register, which is basically just the register of substances, where they are, their location. Some of them have classes, their use, risk assessment. Do you have an MSDS? Is the PPE required? Now the risk assessment, some people, you might want to include a basic risk assessment on there, and if it turns out that it's a very high risk and high chance of injury, or if you just want to be really thorough with what you've got, if you've got a lot of them, we've included here a pretty comprehensive risk assessment for hazardous materials. It goes through sort of like the job safety analysis that we looked at in day 4. It goes through exactly what the substance is. It talks about how you're going to store it, how you're going to use it. So, how you're going to acquire it, how you're going to transport it. So when you buy it, how do you transport it to your workplace? Is there any preparation? Does it need to be decanted from a 44-gallon drum or something like that? How's it going to be used? How's the waste going to be handled? What happens if it spills? Are there any other controls? So it's quite a comprehensive risk assessment for your hazardous materials. Whether you're doing the checklist or the risk assessment, again, it's all kept in the register and it's reviewed as per the other risk assessment process. You identify the risk, which you've done so with the hazardous materials. You assess to see what the risk of damage is or risk of injury is from them. You implement a control, then you review it. Now you review it by keeping it in your hazardous substances register, and you review it as per the dates there. The other documents you've got there, you've got basically just an emergency contact details template. So that goes on the OH&S wall. that is to make sure that and that should be placed on your WHS wall in the lunchroom, littered throughout the workplace, normally where you've got your floor plan for emergency exits, etc. And make sure everyone's aware of that. That's all the contact details for all the emergency personnel that you may need within the workplace. Add or remove as necessary. And then the last one we've included here is basically a self-inspection for portable fire extinguishers. A lot of times you may have a company comes in and does this for you, but if not, this is just going to let you go through and do a quick check to make sure they're approved, make sure they're in date, make sure they're for the right substance. So if it's a white band, I think that's general, that's for, for general paper, fires, cardboard, etc., etc. If you're using chemicals, you've got to have a certain type of fire extinguisher for that. So make sure that the fire extinguisher is correct. In no way, shape or form does this document mean that you are to then go through and undertake the clipping the thing to make sure you've done the inspection, all that sort of stuff. All the inspections of fire hydrants must be done by qualified personnel. But this just allows you to go through and make sure that all your ducks in a row and that everything's right with the fire hydrants. So run that through, make sure they're all correct. You can go through your fire hoses, your fire blankets if you need them, etc. You can customize this to make sure they're incorporated as well. If you're unsure of that one, speak to your emergency services area. All states have a overarching fire authority, which will help you with this as well. So that's the Day 5 implementation pack. Hope it's helpful as usual. Again, any problems, any issues, please give us a call and we'll be happy to help you out. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks again. Bye.